I'm live with Coach Brian Beatty. We're talking today about growing your team or your brokerage, recruiting using the Agent Fast Track program. Now, this is something that Brian's been doing for quite a while. It's a very big deal. It really revolves around bringing agents into your system even before they have a license. You know, everybody else on the planet right now seems to be recruiting people that have a license, and they're all kind of focused on that. What Brian and Club Wealth have been doing is really focusing on people that don't have a license yet and training them from the ground up instead of having to retrain a bunch of bad habits. Now, before Coach Brian starts talking to us about this, I want to share with you our sponsor information. Just want to suggest to you guys that you reach out to Wise Hire. Great tool. Brian and I both use Wise Hire in our businesses. It's clubwealth.com/wise hire, WIZEHIRE. Again, it's clubwealth.com/wise hire. And again, just a great tool for recruiting agents, admins, any kind of recruiting needs you've got. Wise Hire does a great job of really kind of helping fill your funnel at the top end. So that being said, Coach Brian, talk to us about the Agent Fast Track program, why it's so important.
Sure. Hey, first, just a quick, plug for Wise Hire. But last year, we had over 3,000 applicants to our real estate team. Almost all of it came through Wise Hire. So,
I mean, that's crazy cool. You know, it cracks me up when people are like, oh, Wise Hire doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's like everything in your business. It only works if you do, right? So you said you got 3,000 applicants from Wise Hire alone just last year. And this was applicants for mostly admin positions, mostly agent positions, a mixture.
We normally have a few ads running at all times. So we'll have a real estate agent, we'll have a listing agent, we'll have a new sales agent, we'll have an inside sales agent, we'll have a showing assistant, and then we'll have general admin that just we can kind of morph into whatever role we might need at that particular point in time. But having the diversity, I think, is key.
That's huge. I love it. That's awesome. Good for you. Well, good. Well, so talk to us about this Agent Fast Track program. Tell us a little bit about that. And you know, why is this so important to us? Why do we need to be looking at this?
Right. Well, obviously, when you're looking at recruiting or when you're looking at growing your team or your company, you have people that are either licensed or unlicensed. I recruit to a mixture of both, but I've found that the people that are new to the industry, people that are getting licensed, obviously they don't know what they don't know, and they're learning how to essentially not be a danger to the public, right, when they get their real estate license. But that doesn't correlate to going out and finding people to help buy and sell real estate or the act of helping people buy and sell real estate. So as we have our ads out through Wise Hire or LinkedIn or wherever it is, and we get a new lead, I don't know, 10 leads a day, we chat with these folks, and obviously the messaging is from their perspective is pretty clear, which is, I need training. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I've been in some sort of sales position that might translate well into real estate, but we've hired plenty of people that, I had one guy that was a landscaper that I brought into the team, and his first year he did almost 50 transactions. So you just never know.
I love what you just said right there, because I get pushback from people all the time on, oh, I don't want to hire brand new agents. They don't know what they're doing. I only want to hire people that did 3 to 10 transactions last year and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like you. So one of the very best agents, actually 2 of the best agents I ever hired on my team, were both doing property preservation. So they were doing trash outs, for REO properties and stuff like that when I met them. And both these guys ended up doing 10 to 15 transactions a month for the length of time that they worked with us. They were crushing it. And again, it's kind of like you just don't know what you got until you got it.
Right.
So how many do you hire then? Like how many do you hire a month, and what's that look like from, well, let's back up. First of all, how many hire a month? But then I want to know, what does this program look like? What program are you putting them through that's helping them be so successful so quickly?
Right. So right now we're hiring about 1 a week.
Mm-hmm.
So okay. 4 a month. As the year goes on, that will ramp up even more. But for right now, I want at least 10 people in my fast track program at all times. Because while they're in that program, obviously some people make it and they're great and they work out. Some people realize, hey, maybe real estate isn't for me. We've had a few people that have just said, you know what, this isn't really what I thought it was going to be. And I'm happy for that, because when they come into my program and they get exposed to everything that they're going to need to do to sell real estate at a high level, if they know within the first few weeks or first month or two that this is just not for them, then, what are their options? Either they get out of the business, or they've just made the decision internally that, you know what, maybe I only want to do a few transactions a year. And that's fine. That's all well and good. It's just not going to be on my team.
Yeah. And so what are you doing then? So, okay, so you get this new agent that comes in, and when people hear, well, I'm bringing all these people on and then I'm training them, that sounds like a lot of work. And I think a lot of agents kind of have a hang up about, well, I don't want to go out and recruit 20 brand new people, because then I got to spend hours and hours and hours and hours of time training them. What are you doing for training, and how are you automating as much of that process as possible? How are you ensuring that you're spending the least amount of actual time on your own training them as possible?
Right. So when they join the team, first we go through orientation, and I do have a director of operations that helps with just this setup, orientation, going over team standards, training on the CRMs that we use, just kind of getting them plugged into our system.
Okay.
But then after that, we need to start teaching them, all right, how do we sell real estate? And for me, that all starts with mindset training, going over the 5 key pillars of life, and a SWOT analysis, and SMART goals, and affirmations, and getting them to journal, doing things that maybe they've done elements of in the past. But then taking all of these goals that they have, what they want their year to look like a year from now, and their business plan that we go through, and reflecting that on a calendar today that will ultimately lead to that result a year from now. And then doing something like a daily habit tracker, which we found a lot of success with, to just help people take a look at their day and identify the 4 to 6 things that they need to do every day. That, hey, if I'm laying in bed at night and I ask myself the question, did I win the day or not?
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to do every day to have that feeling? I think so many of us kind of tend to beat ourselves up in the night, where, oh man, I didn't do this, or I didn't get to this, and tomorrow I've got to do this. And it's just this big stress unload, like right before we're trying to go to sleep. And it's a very, it can be a very traumatic industry that we're in. So I want to help them focus on a few key targets that they need to accomplish every day, that if done correctly, and if done over time, will lead to big results.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we get into lead generation and lead conversion and follow-up training and all that great stuff. But how do we automate that? We use Club Wealth University.
Mm-hmm.
We have our course online, so that, in theory, if somebody wanted to do our entire fast track program virtually, they absolutely can.
Mm-hmm. That's huge.
Right. And a lot of the content that we teach on are things that, it's rinse and repeat as people come in and out of the fast track program. So it doesn't take a lot of, I guess, time and effort for me to cycle somebody through the program. Now, of course, they're going to have questions. And from my perspective, the more questions, the better, because that means that they're plugged in, they're actually doing the work, and they're trying to figure it out. But we go through almost the exact same training that somebody that, say, might be licensed but just didn't really have access to a lot of training, maybe at a smaller brokerage. We take them through the same process, because I want them to know how to find people to sell real estate and how to actually sell real estate. So everybody wants to hit the ground running. But if they get their license and then they go and they search for a brokerage or a team, and then they get plugged into their network, I mean, it could realistically be 3-4 months before they're even through the training that they need in order to feel like they at least have confidence to go out and help somebody buy or sell a house. I want to accelerate that. I want them generating opportunities as quickly as possible.
See, and I love that, because that's what you're fast tracking or accelerating the whole process of, I just got a license to the time that it takes for me to get my first paycheck. Whereas for most agents, that's going to be, 6 months or more oftentimes before they get their first paycheck. And this becomes a big part of your value proposition to a potential new recruit, right? So now, instead of 6 months to the first paycheck, they might be able to get that first paycheck, from the time they get licensed, let's call it anywhere from 1 to 3 months, which is a whole lot faster than if they wait until they get their license, then they start interviewing brokers, then they start, they pick a brokerage, then they maybe pick a team, and then they start working. I mean, literally, it's easily 6 months for a lot of agents before they get their first transaction closed.
I can't recall a time in the past 2 years where an agent on my team didn't get paid in their first 90 days.
That's huge. I mean, you start thinking about that. Getting paid in the first 90 days is the best retention tool on the planet. Now, that being said, I like that you use the word cycle through them, right? And I know this sounds, for some people watching right now, this sounds impersonal, but I want to be very clear about this, and I want to get your take on it, because Brian, I know that you really pride yourself on, having a high retention rate and helping everybody succeed and all that. But the reality is, not everybody's going to be successful, and not everybody's going to do what they need to do. And one of the nice things about the program is that when you put them in the program pre-license, so before they even have their license, in the first 2 weeks, if they're doing the modules in Club Wealth University, right, they're going through your onboarding program. If they're doing the modules and they're making through progress through the modules, and they're following the steps that you've set aside for them, then you're going to know if they're going to do the deal or not. And if they're not doing those things, there's no sense in keeping them, whether they've got a license or not.
Right. Well, if they're going to be involved in the fast track program, the first thing that you need agreement from them that they are going to do the fast track program. Because if you think about it, a lot of people that are getting their license, they still have other jobs, they have other commitments, they have other things that they're doing. And so you do have to take their progress at times with a grain of salt. It is at times a case by case basis. If somebody has other obligations, they've got a full-time job, but they intend on making real estate their full-time job once they become licensed, so be it. But for the folks that give you that agreement, that handshake that says, yes, I'm in, let's do it, but then the actions don't follow the words, then you need to have those meetings sooner rather than later, because those are problems that we're just going to grow and exacerbate over time.
Absolutely. I'd really be interested to see what questions the people that are watching this have for you right now. If you're watching, whether you're watching it live or you end up watching this recorded down the road, type into the Facebook chat here your questions for Brian. I'm really interested to see. And one of the questions I have for you guys as an audience is, are you hiring part-time agents? Yes or no? Will you hire someone that has another full-time job and is considering going, into real estate and wants to make that transition into full-time real estate agent? Will you hire that person or not? And Brian, what I'm hearing you say is, it sounds like you would hire that person. Is that correct?
I would. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we do have a slightly different setup for a part-time agent than a full-time agent. They're not going to get access to all of the benefits that somebody that's treating this as a full-time job will. But if they have, the desire and the work ethic, and we have an alignment on mission, vision, values, then yeah, I'll give them a shot.
So tell me about that. So what are some of the differences? Well, yeah, if I'm a part-time, if I'm part-time and I'm thinking about joining your team versus I'm a full-time agent, what do I get as a part-timer? What am I not getting that a full-timer would get?
You're not getting the Glengarry leads, right? You're not getting the best leads. You have access to the pond. We've got 15,000 people in our pond. We catch fish in that pond every day. So they get access to that. They get access to the training. They do pay an additional fee. Some of the FaceTime with me is a little reduced until they get to the point where their actions are that of a full-time agent.
Well, and it's interesting. So Coach Nicole Gaudet, who is watching right now as well, watching us live, and hello, Nicole, thank you for being on with us, is saying that she will hire someone with a full-time job if we make a game plan that the person or with that person of how many closings they need to come on full-time. So Coach Nicole, I'm curious, how many is that? If you could maybe do a reply to your comment, I'd love to know how many closings do they have to have. And Brian, do you have something similar? Do you have benchmarks they have to meet in the first 30, 60, 90, 180 days? And if so, what are they?
Well, the first 90 days is our grace period. I want them getting paid within the first 90 days. If they're not doing the work, likely they're not going to get paid, right? It's my responsibility to create the environment and as much opportunity as possible for them to be as successful as possible, but it's their responsibility to go and flip over the rocks to do the work, right? If I'm going to do the work too, I might as well just sell the house and get a full commission, but that's not my goal.
Let's talk about that. So how many hours do you expect out of them? What kind of time commitment do you expect, and what type of, what kind of KPIs are in place for them to ensure that they're hitting those numbers that you want to hit?
Right. Well, the nice thing about Club Wealth University is that you get to track their progress as they go through each module, so that you can see in real time, are they going through the process? Are they absorbing the data? Because there's quizzes and tests in there as well. But then as far as, the investment of time or the things that they're doing on a weekly basis, it changes week by week. it's an 8-week program to get through all the content that we have. And in fact, the free download that we're doing as a result of this video is my outline. It's 4 pages, single spaced, of all the content that we provide people for you guys to use as kind of like a benchmark for creating your own.
Mm-hmm. That's huge.
So sometimes it's going to be task-based. Hey, you need to complete these things. You need to fill out your 5 key pillars of life. You need to do your SWOT analysis. You need to create your SMART goals. I'll walk you through it if you have questions. Every section has, an intro video and then an explanation from me as we're going through things either in the office or over Zoom. And then of course they have homework. They have things that they need to do and accomplish, just like what we would do if we were coaching people through Club Wealth.
Mm-hmm.
I
love the direction you're headed with that. So let me, and this is spawning a couple of questions in my mind. First one is, so you're having them do this, and I hear people say, oh, SWOT analysis, why are we having them fill stuff out if we're not really going to go through it, blah, 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 blah. So the question I have for you is, are you really going through that SWOT analysis with them, and what purpose does that serve for you and for them?
Well, a lot of them have never done it before.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and first of all, what is a SWOT analysis? Just so people know. I know what it is, but I want to make sure that people
strengths,
know.
Weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
There you go. Okay.
So, after we go through, I want to start really high. I want to set that bar really high. And one of my favorite sayings is that people rarely rise to their level of expectations of themselves. They fall to their level of training they receive.
Wow.
So when we go through our training, it starts first with mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Let's think big. Let's think through this. What do we want our life to look like a year from now? Let's take the steps necessary to then reverse engineer that into a plan so that every day what you need to do in order to arrive at that destination. And if we're traveling to that destination, and let's say we're driving in a car, we've got 2 major things at play here. We've got the wheels and we've got the engine. The wheels is the skill set, and the engine is the mindset. The wheels won't turn if our mind isn't right.
Yep.
So a lot of the training that we do and what makes us different is our ability to train people on mindset-based issues, stress management. How do we think through problems? Emotional intelligence. What do we do when we're feeling off?
Mm-hmm.
So many of us have these off days, and so, man, I need to go and get motivated. I need to get my mind right before I start making phone calls. We're literally waiting on a feeling. You know what big players do? They acknowledge it, and then they get their reps in no matter what.
Yep.
They train even when they don't want to. So
yep. That's right. I love it. So what I'm hearing is you're raising the bar for them. And of course, one of our core values at Club Wealth is, eagles don't flock with turkeys, right? So you're setting that bar high. You're also training them to be able to hit that bar, and you're holding them accountable to the expectation of, hey, look, if you don't hit this bar, then you're not going to be here very long. One of the tools you're using to help get them set up straight to begin with is that SWOT analysis. And you're actually going through that SWOT analysis with them to help identify what their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are, so that they can just go into this with a clear head, knowing, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. I get it, but I'm going to go get my reps in anyway. I know that these are things, but I'm just going to focus on the basics no matter what, the fundamentals that I need to have in place in order to hit the numbers I want to hit. Is that accurate?
Yeah, but I'd say the 5 key pillars of life is much more impactful than the SWOT analysis is.
I love that. So let's real quick. Let me just share what those are.
Yes.
So the 5, for those of you that don't know, the 5 pillars are family, business, financial, health, both physical and mental, and then your spiritual life. And if any one of those is out of balance, they all struggle, right? So keep going, Brian.
So we want to attach a method to the madness.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody comes into our ecosystem and I just say, hey, sit down, make 100 phone calls. That's what some teams do. It's, hey, follow this blueprint, make these phone calls. Let me know after you've done that. And it's just kind of rinse and repeat. For my team, for my agents, I want to have as their leader some emotional leverage that I can tap into, so that not if, but when their activities start to fall off a little bit, I can go back to why they're doing those things in the first place. I want to nip those things in the bud and get them back on track, so that we're focused on time on task over time, not just, using our talents and taking but one day out of the week to last us the rest of it.
Okay, so first of all, I absolutely love that. Now we've only got a couple of minutes left. I want to make sure that there's two more questions I want to ask you that are very, very important. We've only got a few minutes left, and before we do that, before I get to these last two questions for you, I know you're going to be teaching a class on all this at Listing Agent Bootcamp, which is coming up in May. So for those of you who have not signed up for Listing Agent Bootcamp yet, it's both in person and online. So you can attend either in person in Arizona or you can attend online. And Coach Brian will be teaching the full class on this. I would recommend you get signed up right away. The tickets are going to sell out. They're actually very close to being sold out already. So go to clubwealth.com/LABC. And maybe, I don't know if Coach Nicole, since you're on with us, if you could throw that in the chat, maybe clubwealth.com/LABC. Also, we're going to give you the ability to get a download when we finish today. I'm going to put a link in the chat for a download that you can get that Coach Brian has prepared that kind of walks you through this program, walks you through the steps. But what I'd like you to do really quick, Coach Brian, is tell us, how do they start? Like, what are the logistics of how do they actually start generating income opportunities before they're licensed? I mean, because we know that, if a transaction, let's say we put a transaction pending prior to them having a license, they can't get paid on that transaction. It'd be a RESPA violation, right? But we can start filling their pipeline so that the second they get licensed, now they can start putting those transactions together and start getting paid. So how are you doing that with them specifically?
Well, once we get to the point where, they're on the phone, they're making phone calls, they're building their database. I mean, that's one thing I tell folks is that if you look at like the allocation of fuel on an airplane, over half of it is spent on takeoff. It's like 60% is spent on takeoff or something like that. So same thing with our business. We're going to spend a lot of time, energy, and resources getting our business set up, getting our pipeline set up. It's kind of like the mental image of like Connect 4, right? Where if the vertical lines are the months of the year, I just want them to start dropping people into those different months, creating that database so that once they're actually licensed, they already have follow-up scheduled, they already have relationships that they've been building. And it accelerates the ability for them to generate income. But it is important to just mention, Michael, that they are not licensed agents. They cannot engage in the act of real estate. So
they can't talk to people about price or about specific listing features. That's
correct. Yeah, there's no consultation being given to the general public from these folks. So let's say that we had this happen a few weeks ago, actually. So literally first day that an agent's making phone calls after we go over script practice and role playing, they get on the phone, somebody wants to meet. And I prepare them for this, obviously. You have one of those moments where you talk to someone, you're like, yeah, sounds great. When can we get together? Well, they need to know what to do after that. So it's important to note that if an appointment is set, they go with an agent and they shadow that agent. They're there to observe. They're not there to consult. They're not there to practice real estate, but they're there to get real on the job training. And there's not much better than that.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, where else are they going to, before they even have a license, where else are they going to be able to shadow agents on appointments? Where else are they going to get the actual training? Where else are they going to be able to start filling their pipeline, putting people into the CRM, and even contacting their sphere of influence and saying, hey, I'm on Brian Beatty's team now. They're allowed to say that. They're just not allowed to talk real estate specifics, right? And not only that, they can actually even invite their sphere of influence out to your next client event. I mean, how cool would it be if right when they got their license, at that event, you're able to celebrate the fact that this person just got their license, all their friends, family, their sphere of influence is there. They're excited, you're excited. And all of a sudden now we start really kicking this career off properly. Man, what a difference that makes. And everybody else is just waiting until, oh my gosh, they're already on my team. And they've already got a license. Now I'll bring them on my team. And frankly, I just think it's too late. And I think right now, this is something that's happening a lot with Club Wealth members right now. Club Wealth, our team members, our coaching clients and our coaches are out there doing this right now and bringing a lot of people in using this system. I think 2 years from now, in fact, maybe even as short as a year from now, I think it's going to be the standard. I think everybody out there is going to be copying this. So that's awesome. Okay. And so, go ahead, Coach Brian, you're going to add something?
Well, I was just going to say that, one of the great things about this for those that run teams or even brokerages to an extent, what you also create by taking people through this fast track program is an incredible amount of loyalty to your team. And it goes both ways, right? They have hitched their wagon to you. They're relying on you to help them grow their business. It's scary to jump into a commission-based job if they've not done that before.
Mm-hmm.
So you as the team leader need to approach this process with urgency. You need to get them through the process. You need to get them up and running, up to speed, so that they can go and put in the time and energy to create opportunity for themselves.
Well, and then when you've done that and they've been successful with it, in that first 2 weeks they're with you, you got to get them on video talking about it. And
got to celebrate it. Yep.
Promote the heck out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of benefits, not just for them and for you as it relates to getting them productive more quickly. You also increase retention, you increase brand loyalty. It ties into culture. I mean, there's a lot of spin-off tangible and intangible benefits.
Yep, totally agree. All right, well, Coach Brian, I know we're out of time, but I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing this with us today. This is great information, and I know we just touched the tip of the iceberg today. I really hope you guys will get to Listing Agent Bootcamp. You can sign up at clubwealth.com/LABC. It's Listing Agent Bootcamp. Get there, come to Brian's class. You're going to love it. There's actually 8 different classes at that particular event. We've got, I think, over 50 speakers. And 8 of the classes are about recruiting at some level from some of the top recruiters in this industry. Seriously, if you're a team leader or broker owner, you have got to be at this event. Also, if you've got team members that work on listings, anybody that goes out and takes listings for you, bring them with you. Your administrative team members, there's a track for them. There's a track for solo agents, and there's a track for broker owners, as well as several different tracks for team leaders. So you guys, there's so many great classes at this thing. You've got to be there, and you're going to get to hear from great people like Coach Brian, who really know their stuff and aren't just talking about it, but are actually doing it, right? How tiring is it to keep hearing from people that aren't actually crushing it in the business? Why would I listen to someone who's doing less business than I am? Why not focus on listening to people like Coach Brian, who are doing more business than you are? Only take advice from someone who is where you want to be, right? Focus on that, and then your results will grow. So, Coach Brian, anything that you'd like to add in closing?
No, other than, I don't know if you have the link for the free download. That's something you'll post, or something that they want from me? Just logistically, how to get it to them?
I do. In fact, I just posted, and Coach Carol Sasson actually just said, I'm great. I'm so excited to attend his class. And I did post the link to the checklist. So if you guys want to go in there and you want to get kind of all the, the checklist of information that we're talking about here that you can follow to kind of get this stuff done and start recruiting people pre-license, then go to clubwealth.com/agent fast track. clubwealth.com/agent fast track. And there you'll see you'll be able to get a replay of this call. Plus you'll be able to get the free download of all this information we just talked about. So that said, Coach Brian, thank you again so much. And folks, don't forget to get signed up for Listing Agent Bootcamp and check out WiseHire.
Thanks, Michael.
You bet. Take care, guys.
See ya.